Alright, AP World Historians. Let's dive into one of the most crucial topics for your exam. Unit 8, Topic 2, the Cold War. After World War II, the world wasn't exactly at peace. Instead, two former allies, the United States and the Soviet Union, emerged as global superpowers with deeply conflicting ideologies. This clash set the stage for a nearly half-century-long global struggle known as the Cold War. So, what were these clashing ideologies? The United States championed capitalism and democracy. Think private ownership, free markets, and individual liberties. The Soviet Union, on the other hand, was built on communism. This meant a one-party state, government control of the economy, and the idea of a classless society. These two systems were fundamentally incompatible, and both nations believed their way was the only way for the future. This ideological battle wasn't just talk. It led to the formation of powerful military alliances. In 1949, the United States and its Western European allies formed NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The core principle was collective security. An attack on one member was an attack on all. The Soviet Union responded in 1955 by creating the Warsaw Pact with its Eastern European satellite states. Europe was now split by what Winston Churchill famously called an Iron Curtain, a symbolic and physical divide between the democratic West and the communist East. But the Cold War was onto hot war, with direct fighting between the US and the USSR. Why? Because of nuclear weapons? Both sides engaged in a terrifying arms race, building up massive arsenals of atomic and hydrogen bombs. This created a situation called mutually assured destruction, or MAD. It's a chilling concept. If one side launched a nuclear attack, the other would retaliate, leading to the total annihilation of both. This fear of global catastrophe kept the superpowers from direct confrontation. Instead of fighting each other head-on, they fought proxy wars. These were conflicts in other countries where the US and the USSR supported opposing sides. Think of it like a global chess match, with nations like Korea, Vietnam, and Afghanistan as the chess pieces. In the Korean War, the US-backed South fought the Soviet-backed North. In Vietnam, it was a similar story, with the US supporting South Vietnam against the Communist North, which received aid from the Soviets and China. These wars were devastating for the countries involved and became major battlegrounds in the ideological struggle. Another key feature of this era was the non-aligned movement. As the world split into two camps, many newly independent nations in Asia and Africa wanted to forge their own path. Leaders like India's Nehru, Indonesia's Sukarno, and Egypt's Nasser spearheaded this movement. They refused to formally align with either the US or the USSR, aiming to maintain their sovereignty and focus on their own development. While they often accepted aid from both sides, they resisted being drawn into the superpowers' orbits. Now, let's talk about how these ideologies played out economically. The United States promoted its capitalist model through initiatives like the Marshall Plan, which poured billions of dollars into rebuilding Western Europe after World War II. This not only helped Europe recover, but also created strong economic partners and markets for American goods containing the spread of communism. The Soviet Union had its own economic system based on central planning. In Eastern Europe, they established Comecon, the Council for Mutual Economic Assistance. To integrate the economies of the Eastern Bloc countries with the Soviet Union, this created an economic sphere of influence, parallel to the Warsaw Pact's military alliance. The Cold War also saw intense competition in other arenas, like the space race. When the Soviets launched Sputnik, the first artificial satellite, in 1957, it sent shockwaves through the United States. This kicked off a frantic race to achieve space superiority, culminating in the US landing a man on the moon in 1969. This wasn't just about science, it was about proving which system was more advanced and capable. But this rigid, two-sided world eventually began to crack. By the late 1980s, the Soviet Union was facing severe economic problems. The centrally planned economy was inefficient, and the massive spending on the military and the war in Afghanistan was unsustainable. Dissatisfaction was growing, both within the Soviet Union and across Eastern Europe. Then came Mikhail Gorbachev. He introduced two revolutionary policies: glasnost, which means openness, allowing for more freedom of speech and press, and perestroika, a restructuring of the economy to introduce some market-like reforms. Gorbachev's goal was to save the Soviet system, not destroy it. But these reforms opened the floodgates. People started demanding more freedom, and the satellite states in Eastern Europe began to break away. The symbolic end of the Cold War came in 1989 with the fall of the Berlin Wall. For decades, it had been the most potent symbol of the Iron Curtain. Its collapse triggered a wave of revolutions across Eastern Europe. One by one, communist regimes fell. Finally, in 1991, the Soviet Union itself dissolved. The Cold War was over. So, for your AP exam, what's the big takeaway? The Cold War was a global conflict, defined by ideological competition between the US and the USSR. It led to military alliances like NATO and the Warsaw Pact, a nuclear arms race that created mutually assured destruction, and devastating proxy wars in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. It also spurred the non-aligned movement as new nations sought independence from superpower control. Ultimately, internal pressures and economic stagnation led to the collapse of the Soviet Union, ending the bipolar world order and reshaping global politics. Make sure you understand the key terms: containment, Iron Curtain, proxy wars, non-alignment, glasnost, and perestroika. Think about the continuities and changes. The conflict was new, but the use of alliances and competition for influence were old patterns. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more AP World reviews.